皆様、リンク J のライブウェビナーにご参加いただきありがとうございます。本日はアメリカ国際衛生研究所の商業化への取り組みと日本企業とのコラボレーション、楽天メディカルを例にをお送りいたします。私は本日司会を務めますリンク J の関と申します。本日は画面でお示ししているプログラムに沿って進めてまいります。ご質問はウェビナーの Q&A 機能からお願いいたします。時間の都合上、すべての質問へのお答えができかねる場合がございます。また、本イベントでは、ウェビナーの同時通訳機能、英語字幕をご利用いただけます。なお、ウェビナー中の録音、録画、画面キャプチャーなどはお控えください。それでは、リンク J 常務理事様よりご挨拶いたします。よろしくお願いします。
はい、皆さんおはようございます。リンク J の曽山でございます。今日はですね、このウェビナーにご参加いただいて誠にありがとうございます。NIH、アメリカ国立衛生研究所、とリンク J が、初めてですね、リンク J として、共催するウェビナーでございまして、今日はリンク J できて5年ちょっと経つんですけれども、その中でもですね、非常に画期的な一日ということになろうかと思います。皆さんご案内の通りですね、NIH、世界で最大の基礎科学研究機関、そしてグラントもですね、すごくお持ちになっているということで有名でございます。確か私の認識が間違ってなければですね、年間のですね、予算が、確か3兆円ぐらいあったかな、ぐらいという非常に大きな組織、で最先端の研究をなさってもいらっしゃいます。で今回はですね、その NIH の一部門である国立がんセンター、こちらの技術移転部門においてスーパーバイザーを務められている、マイケル・ L、サルギャラ、先生、からですね、NIH が具体的にどのようにですね、民間企業と提携しているのか、そしてですね、連携先にはどのようなメリットがあるのか、等についてですね、お話をいただきます。そしてですね、連携のですね、具体的な実例として、楽天メディカルの創始者兼 CSO を務めていらっしゃいますミゲール・ガルシア、ガーズマン先生、からですね、NIH と提携することのメリット、民間企業の側から見たですね、そして実用化を進めている、光免疫療法ですね、こちらについてもですね、お話をいただいてですね、最後に、両先生による、ディスカッションを行ってまいります。のでお楽しみにしていてください。それでは、ザルゲラ先生、イントロダクションをよろしくお願いします。
So thank you very much to LinkJ for inviting me to present to you. Thank you very much for attending, and I hope you will find my presentation interesting and of value. And I'm going to talk about commercialization initiatives that we have and partnerships between NIH and companies around the world. And the second part of the total presentation will feature a specific study of Rakuten Medical. So I'm going to now share my screen and begin. So as I said, I'm going to speak today about the partnerships that we do with companies and how we work with them to bring important medical solutions to the patient and to the market. This photo shows our campus in Maryland in the United States. We are about 18,000 scientists, many of whom are very well regarded, including one of the 2020 Nobel Prize winners for medicine. This slide shows various parts of our mission statement, where we create intellectual property or IP that we then utilize to be commercialized and taken to patients. We are also have the mission of attracting additional research and development resources through our partnerships. And through those partnerships, we take the funding that we receive from the public, from the American taxpayer, from the government, and try to obtain a return on that investment by turning those dollars into important medical solutions that benefit public health. The part of my talk that I'm going to focus on today is actually the final mission point, which is stimulating economic development. And so I'm going to talk about how stimulating economic development also helps our mission by benefiting public health. There are 6 different ways that companies, investors, entrepreneurs, and other stakeholders can work with NIH. I'm going to concentrate today on 2. We invent a lot of medical solutions each year that are available for in-licensing to companies and entrepreneurs. And we also have hundreds of collaborations to further our medical solutions. And my talk today will concentrate on the first 2 areas. So first, there's a number of misconceptions about working with NIH, and I'd like to talk about them now. We are the largest basic research center in the world. However, we don't only do basic research. We also do translational studies and clinical studies. We don't just study drugs, that is, small and large molecules. We also study medical devices, diagnostics, as well as biomarkers, wearables, research tools, and digital health. There's a misconception that the NIH only works with US companies, when in fact, we work with companies around the world. It's not true that we only work with academia, with universities. We have hundreds of licenses and partnerships with companies just like yours. Also, we don't just develop ideas that we come up with ourselves. An idea, a medical solution, can originate in a company partner, and then you can bring your technology to us to develop further. So here's a couple important inventions of ours. The first is the world's first preventative cancer vaccine, Gardasil, really an amazing initiative which took over 10 years. To think that there is now a vaccine to prevent cancer from occurring, that is cervical cancer, is truly amazing. And we worked with a number of commercial partners to bring that to patients. Velcade is an example of a treatment that we developed for a significant unmet medical need in an orphan or rare population. And so even if what you're working with is in a rare or orphan or neglected indication, we still would like you to reach out to us to see if we might work together. And then finally, Spravato was developed in our National Institute of Mental Health, and it helps with a number of mental health challenges such as depression. So NIH can be divided into 27 institutes and centers. Those are divided either by organ system, such as heart, lung, and blood, or disease, such as cancer. Our tech transfer office is in the National Cancer Institute, shown in orange. We also are responsible for the technology transfer activities, that is, licensing and partnerships, from 9 other institutes and centers that are smaller, and they outsource their activities to us. So for example, to name a few, we have the National Institute on Aging. We also have Child Health. We have the Eye Institute and we have the Drug Abuse Institute, among others. The areas that we do not cover are shown in white. However, if you're interested in developing a technology in an area shown in white, for example, infectious disease, diabetes, mental health, neurological disorders, you can get in touch with us and we will provide you the right contact information at the appropriate institute. So, regardless of what institute your company is relevant to, we can be an initial contact point to point you in the right direction. So we have a number of legal agreements that we use to do our licensing and our partnerships. Some of those are shown on the right side of the slide. It's important to let you know that we will help determine, we will work with you to do a needs assessment to determine which type of agreement is best for you. Those type of agreements can address either technology gaps and or knowledge gaps in your pipeline. And what we want to do is work with you to enhance your pipeline. The financial terms are negotiated on a case-by-case basis. They usually involve each side contributing effort to the collaboration and contributing financial support to the collaboration. Now, unlike the grants that we provide, we do not provide direct funding to a company, but we do spend money on their behalf, which is known as indirect or in-kind support. So for example, there could be an example where a company provides an experimental drug and wants to test it in an animal model system. And so we would pay for the animal model and the testing in animals, and the company would pay to manufacture and test the drug before it is shipped to us. It's important to mention that we are not a clinical research organization, which means that we don't do sponsored research. We do not simply take money to do a task. All of our partnerships need to be both sides contributing effort and ideas. There's advantage for your company, or if you are a service provider, a company such as a law firm, an accounting firm, etc., that has life science clients, what are the advantages to working with NIH? Well, we have dozens of unique reagents and resources. We have animal models, we have cell lines, we have unique reagents, media, etc., which you can access by working with us. We have scientific thought leaders. We can also bring in regulatory expertise from the FDA to make sure that our partnership is being done in a manner that the FDA for the United States will be in agreement with. Some of our collaborations lead to new intellectual property, new patents. In that case, we take no overhead. What that means is there are no surcharges or indirect costs to working with us. At other US institutions, the overhead or indirect cost rate can be as high as 100%, which means for every dollar you are spending on the collaboration, you've got to spend another dollar, which is sort of like a profit for the university or research institute. We do not do that. Every dollar that you contribute towards the partnership is going to moving the technology to the market. We have reasonable milestone payments and royalties. We are not looking to maximize the amount of money that we bring in. We are looking to address significant health needs. If we develop new intellectual property together, although it is jointly owned, you as the company will get the option to an exclusive license to the new technology. So there is no risk that another company will get the technology that we've developed together unless you turn it down. For licensing, we also have compelling business terms. For companies that are private, we take no upfront equity, which is very, very unusual, at least in the United States. So potentially, you could license something in to your pipeline from a world-renowned institution such as NIH and maintain your percent ownership, which is very important for you, your team, and your investors. And our financial terms are based on fair value for the public dollar. The public dollar meaning the money that we get from the US public to do our work. And fair value means we're just looking to get what we say is a fair value. We're not trying to make as much money as we can off the arrangement. There certainly are advantages to us to working with you. We get access to your innovations and exciting disruptive ideas. We get access to your commercial development expertise. You know how to get products to market. We don't, and we need your expertise in this area. Collaborating with us is one of the few ways we're allowed to take in additional funding for a research project. And again, it has no indirect costs, and funding is not necessary for every project. It depends on what the project needs to do. Most importantly, the advantage that we get is the satisfaction of getting medical solutions to patients who desperately need them. Now, I mentioned that we are the largest basic biomedical research center. What's not known as well is that we are also the largest clinical validation entity in the world. At any one time, we are running well over 1,000 clinical trials. They all have one thing in common. They are first in human. They are exciting new technologies that have never been tried in patients. These tend to be diseases of high public health impact and can be orphan or rare diseases as well. As a result, we're the world's largest holder of investigational new drug applications. We study how a disease occurs and how it progresses. We develop with you not just therapeutic interventions, but if that's the focus of your company, diagnostic treatments and preventative approaches as well. And you can be sure they're done in an ethical, efficient manner with high scientific quality. I have a brief example of two of our success stories. If you look at the arrow at the top of the slide, you will see that it goes from NIH to industry. So this is an example of a technology that we developed at NIH and then brought to a company. It's Gardasil. It's a vaccine against HPV, which is causative in cervical cancer. And once we invented this, we did a collaboration called a Cooperative Research and Development Agreement with Merck. And as a result of many, many years of working together, we developed Gardasil, which Merck then had the rights to in-license and take to market. They launched in 2007, and immediately it was what's called a blockbuster indication for them. Even 8 years later, it is bringing in well over 500 million US dollars in sales just in the US, and is one of the most commercially successful inventions that we've ever had. Now, this success story is a little bit different than we're known for, but is very common. If you look at the arrow at the top, you will see that the arrow goes from right to left. So it's an idea that started in industry and was brought to us. And it's a company called Somnology that developed a wearable device to monitor sleep disorders, sleep apnea. And it would help patients so they could be measured for their sleep condition in their own home. They would not need to go to a sleep center, which is a strange place, and there are strangers there, and they hook you up with wires, and it's a very difficult, uncomfortable situation to try to have your sleep disorder measured. So they had this device so that patients who have sleep disorders could be measured in their own home. And the company came to us because they needed to validate their technology, their device, in a clinical study in human patients. And so we met them at a conference. We had a series of meetings to learn more about their technology and to make sure that we had a program relevant to what they were doing. And so we helped identify a clinician to collaborate with them and executed what's called a research collaboration agreement and used their device in a clinical trial. And the company is private, and the company will use the clinical data from the clinical study to raise their next round of funding. So, unlike the grants that you are likely familiar with, what I've been describing is not a special program. It's not competitive. There are no application deadlines. And again, we will help support the effort. We will not give you directly money or funding, but we will spend money on your behalf, indirect support. How do you get started? Well, you're doing it today by being in on this event. And you are welcome to email or phone my office and explore a license of one of our technologies or a partnership. So we'll get a little bit of technical information from you to make sure that it's a strategic fit with one of our programs. We also want to learn, what would you like to do with us? Do you want to study your drug in an animal model? Do you want some patient material to develop a diagnostic? Do you want to do a clinical trial? And we'll try to find someone among our faculty, an internal champion who wants to work with you. And you could be off and running and starting your project or starting your license in a matter of months. Now, this graph shows several different disease areas on the y-axis, and on the x-axis, it shows the amount of venture capital raised in the US last year. And there are many, many different diseases that received significant venture capital funding. And these check marks indicate what areas NIH covers. And as you can see, all the areas, all the top 12 areas funded by venture capital had programs within the NIH. So chances are, whatever your company is trying to develop, we have a program relevant to you within the NIH. Partnering with us can offer significant financial potential to your company, or if you're an investor or entrepreneur, to your startup. Working with us can lead to funding. And at the top is an example with Alterum and Rakuten Medical about how they license technologies from us and then received either seed funding or significant venture capital funding. Collaborating with and licensing from us can also lead to your company being acquired. So your company having a successful liquidity event. An example is Kite, which was based on our technology, which was acquired in 2017 for well over 10 billion US dollars. Another example was Miss Therapeutics was acquired earlier this year. Collaborating with us and licensing from us can create products that when they go on the market have blockbuster potential. And you can see 5 examples here of companies that were either developed by NIH or co-developed with NIH and then taken to market by the companies you see here. And you can see significant worldwide sales of these products. We've been longtime partners with Japan. However, there's a lot of work we could still do together. We are working currently with 85 companies. We have 62 confidential disclosure agreements. However, we only have one active collaborative agreement, and it's with Rakuten Medical. And currently, there are no active clinical trial agreements. Material transfer agreements are agreements to do things like get mice, get antibodies, get reagents such as that. So given the importance of the Japanese life science industry, there certainly is a lot more work that we could be doing together. So I want to point out that we do work all around the world. We do currently about 5% of our agreements with Japan, but again, we really want to increase that. Currently, we do about 40% of our agreements with companies, that is for-profit entities, and we would really want for Japanese companies to be a significant part of that 40%. So to summarize, our value proposition is that we have a commercialization-friendly business model. If you added up all product sales last year from products licensed from NIH, it would come to over 5 billion US dollars. Again, if you're private and you license from us, we do not take equity. We do not take a percentage of your company. If you bring IP into the partnership, we won't take it. It stays yours. We don't have any overhead rate when you partner with us. Every dollar is going towards the partnership itself. Working with us can validate your technology preclinically or tested in humans. Working with us means working with world-renowned researchers and resources, and also the prestige factor. Collaborating with us increases the profile of your company. So I very much, again, want to thank LinkJ and the organizers. Please explore working with us. You can start with the email address, either one on this slide also. These slides are available to LinkJ, and they also have my contact information. So you have many ways to find out how to get a hold of me. We'd be happy to have an introductory call, have a webinar to discuss your technology. When the pandemic is in the past, we're also at a number of conferences, and we also have a number of social media sites that you can follow us and see what we're up to. So I'm going to conclude my remarks at this time and stop sharing my screen. And there's a few questions. I would appreciate my LinkJ organizers. Would you like me to take questions now, or would you like me to introduce Dr. Guzman?
Oh, please. This is Aki speaking. Please go ahead to take question now. Yeah.
Okay.
It's very good for the audiences. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. The first one I see is what is the difference to cooperate with you and the Japanese National Research Center for a Japanese company? There's a lot of similarities. We may have different programs and research than is happening at the Japanese National Research Center. We may also have different types of business arrangements and financial terms that are different than the Japanese Research Center. We do not consider ourselves a competitor. We are all working together. So what I would say is, I would hope that you would consider us as well as the Japanese National Research Center, not instead of the Japanese Research Center, and make a decision, make a selection which works best for your company. Also, there's also another answer from one of the hosts. So go ahead. I'm not hearing the answer, so I'm just going to go ahead. What stage are most of your licensing opportunities? Are they more early stage or are they more late stage? So one of the realities of our technologies is that almost all of them are preclinical. So for companies to work with us, they have to be comfortable with the fact that it's going to take many months or sometimes years for the technology to progress to where it could be used in a clinical study. So if your company is interested in collaborating or licensing, however, the technology or the program has to already have been in clinical trial, then we may not be a good partner for you, unless you're interested in coming to us to work with you on one of your phase 1 clinical trial stage projects. There's a question, do we need to negotiate with FDA by ourselves for the clinical trial, or do we have a program to help us? So we can bring in FDA people to help advise the project. However, and this is important, it does not replace the company's own interactions with FDA. It does not replace any of the formal meetings or other procedures that the Japanese company has with FDA. It is really just on an as-needed advisory capacity. Next question is, we are a medical device company, certified. We'd like to actually, okay, is it easy to approach you? Yes, here I am. Joking aside, the company that's reaching out to me, the medical device startup, you have my contact information in the slide deck, or LinkJ has my contact information if you didn't get it. And I would ask you to reach out to me, and I would be happy to try to help you. We do work on many, many different types of diseases, but we don't work on everything. So we'll try to see whether we're working on something that's relevant to your pipeline. How is the collaboration resolved when the company wants to get out of it, when the expected results aren't forthcoming? So part of the negotiation of the partnership will include how each side can leave the partnership. How do you manage non-competition among many projects? Well, we actually take on very similar projects because what we want to do is get important medical solutions to patients. So if there are two companies that we're working with that have very similar technologies, as long as the companies are comfortable, we will work with both of them. So for us, we're trying to help people. And so competition is something that companies absolutely need to be aware of, but is not an emphasis of us. What are you more expecting of Link J? I'm not sure I understand the question, but what we asked of them was to introduce us to their constituents, their stakeholders, and so we really appreciate that they have done that. Is NIH interested in some cell therapy products? The answer is absolutely yes, in cancer and many other fields. Next question is, we're open to partnerships. Are we open to partnerships in software development? Well, sometimes it needs to be very much related to healthcare. So, and typically we don't have a lot of software engineers. So typically the company will bring their technology to us, but simply a software solution for a number of sectors that happen to include healthcare, that would not be as much of a focus for us. We have how many members? I'm going to answer one more question, and then in respect to Dr. Guzman, I'm going to, oh, actually, I've been asked to move on. So a quick answer, we have about 60 people in our tech transfer office, and their backgrounds are legal and scientific and business.